One of the most hotly debated topics in the 2023 NHL Draft is, where will Will Smith be drafted? The star center from the U.S. National Development Program is really blowing some scouts away, but will he go top 5? In this video, we'll be making the case for Will Smith. Will Smith, as I mentioned, out of the U.S. National Development Program, has been shocking scouts with his play this year, with 42 points, 15 goals, 27 assists in just 20 games in the USHL for the National Development Team this year, improving upon his 28 points in 36 games last year. But not only that, he shines at the national level. In 2022-23 with the U.S. National Under-18 team, he has 107 points in 53 games. Look at that improvement over last year, where he had 27 points in 28 games. Jesse, Will Smith is one of the most tantalizing prospects out there because he really doesn't have a ton of weaknesses. When I say make a case for Will Smith going in the top 5, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Well, the Fresh Prince himself. I want him over here just for the jokes, everything else. But, you know, besides that, he's just the type of player that you win hockey games with. He's the type of player that's not afraid to go to the front of the net, to take every last bit of ice that the opposition is giving to him and create even a little bit more with some really deceptive stick handling as well. So what I like about him is this is just a guy, like, he just toe drags around defenders for breakfast with so much ease. You know, and once he does that, he then puts himself an opportunity right in the slot where he can rip it home top cheese or dish off a beautiful no-look pass to a teammate waiting in the wing.
Will Smith is very cerebral on the ice. Everything he does seems calculated. You know, that's something you'd love to see from a prospect. His offensive game is phenomenal. I mean, while he can still pot some goals, as you guys saw, he is a phenomenal playmaker. And I'll bring up some quotes from his scouting from the Hockey Writers. If you want to go take a look at some scouting reports, I suggest going to their website. But as you can see, Smith attracts a lot of attention in the offensive zone, drawing multiple defenders in his gravity before making a deft pass out of pressure to one of his lucky teammates. He has a ton of deception built into his game. He fakes opponents with his head, eyes, shoulders, and skates. It's very difficult for defenders to predict where he'll go next, and as soon as they commit one way, he zips off in another. Now, he's not the fastest skater in the world, but his agility on his skates, his ability to make you look foolish with simple moves, there's a lot of guys who've done that in NHL history, guys who might not always be the fastest, and Will Smith really fits that bill. As a center, Jesse, when you're looking for a center in the NHL, a lot of times now you're looking for someone who can sort of play a full 200-foot game, as we're seeing a lot more players, someone like Patrice Bergeron being so reveled. He's like the core, the captain of Stanley Cup winning teams, even a guy like Nick Suzuki with the Habs. Will Smith says he works on faceoff, but what have you seen from Will Smith's 200-foot game, his offense transitioning into his defense, that has impressed you?
Well, I've seen that he's really tenacious on his forecheck, which I really like to see as well. And, you know, also once he gets in the offensive zone, like, he reminds me so much of Nick Suzuki in many ways, and possibly even with a higher ceiling, which is crazy to say, but it's quite possibly true. And the reason why I feel that Will Smith is going to pan out the next level is he's a really good combination of skill, but then also high hockey IQ, which we see has been the core recipe for Nick Suzuki's success. Very much like Nick, you know, the young captain of the Montreal Canadiens, he has this great ability to look off defenders and even goalies, right? And we've seen that work to such great success in Montreal, where Suzuki's really looking in one direction and then firing a beautiful pass to Caufield for the one time in the other direction. Like, with Will Smith, we're getting another playmaker that can do this, who also has a tremendous shot on top of that.
Yeah, for sure, and you mentioned Suzuki passing to Caufield, another U.S. National Development guy. If we just look at some of the U.S. National Development stats, the program has produced 5 first overall picks in Rick DiPietro, Eric Johnson, Patrick Kane, Austin Matthews, and Jack Hughes, and they have a record 8 players selected in the first round of 2019, with 6 being selected in the first round last year in Montreal. And this prospect in Will Smith, he's one of those players that's got a real subtle excellence to him. He needs to make a pass, and he does. He needs to maneuver the puck into a shooting position, and he does. You better know where he is on the ice, because if you don't, chances are you're ready to get slayed. Will Smith is just one of these newer generation guys where it's just like, not even newer generation, I shouldn't say that, but one of these guys that a lot of front offices are clamoring about, especially in recent years, where there's really few weaknesses. And as we mentioned in the Matvei Michkov video, if you guys haven't watched that, go watch our Case for Matvei Michkov video. When you're picking top 5 in a draft as stacked as this, you don't always need to be looking for, you know, a home run swing on a bad pitch. You just want to make sure that you're getting someone solid. With the guys like Fantilli and Bedard going number 1 and 2, someone like Will Smith, who has a very, very high certainty that he will turn into a quality NHL player is really hard to pass up, no?
Absolutely. And a lot of that certainty comes just from the pedigree of the program. If we look at the last players that were selected out of this program, Jack Hughes is the only player that has more points than him in the National Development Program for the U.S. Right now than our boy. And even above Cole Caufield, which is saying so much because we knew he absolutely teared it up. Like, this program is just doing such a great job of developing tremendous NHL players. And we see that even if they don't come in the league the first year and they're gangbusters, that they're going to come around and they're going to really be elite. Like we saw with Jack Hughes, like eventually, this program just does a great job of developing elite NHL talent.
For sure. And Will Smith seemingly will fall into that category. But, making these videos, we don't want to just focus on the positives. What are the drawbacks? If you're looking at drafting Will Smith, top 5 might be pushing it. He's around 5th in a lot of mock drafts, but he falls as low as 7th, some even as low as 9th. But he's a very highly touted prospect. But with all prospects, there are some drawbacks. And as we can see in this one here, he's very deceptive, handles the puck well on the rush, but nothing specifically makes Smith stand out compared to someone such as Bedard or Matvei Michkov. And to be fair, those two are like the most skilled in the draft, so take that with a grain of salt. Smith isn't the most skilled player out there. He's not going to blow you away speed-wise, but there are very few weaknesses in his game, and he can play just about any role needed quite reliably. But if we go to some notable improvements that he should make before coming to the NHL, is that his skating isn't especially dynamic. Even though he's smooth and his transition from skating forward to backward is nearly seamless, one of the things that makes him have a huge defensive upside, he needs to have some safer decision making and a better physical game. At 6 feet tall, Jesse, he's not exactly tiny, but that's about the average height for an NHL center. And at the same time, if we go back, safer decision making. Will Smith, a lot of the times, as the guy, as an 18-year-old on this under 18 program, he tends to make a lot of unforced errors where he's trying to do a bit too much. To me, these are fairly easily remedied. What are your thoughts about his weaknesses, and are they real big concerns for you?
They're not real big concerns because I feel they're easily fixed at the NHL level, because the reason why he's doing too much at the level that he is right now is because he's the most talented player on his team, so he's shouldering a little bit more of that. However, when you do get to the NHL, you realize that, okay, I got other talented players I can work with, I can trust them. So that's going to definitely, develop into a little bit more of a complete game. I think as well, just with a lot of top-end, offensively gifted players, it's quite normal to see sometimes having some defensive breakdowns, not all the time, some blown coverages. It's not a huge issue for him, but it's definitely just a small point of improvement. I think, if he is coming to the Habs, where maybe he's projected, maybe Adam Nichols would want to focus on just a little bit more of that board play, using the frame that he has all the same, and that tenacious attitude that he's showing on the forecheck, and just kind of bringing it to the boards as well. And I mean, other than that, though, we're really nitpicking at this point.
That's very true, and we've actually seen that a lot. If he does end up going to Montreal, that's a point of improvement for a lot of Habs players just this year, especially Kirby Dach. We've seen him really, really improve, and that was a huge weakness of his, so it could be a very good fit in Montreal. But that brings us to the question, who picks him? While, yes, this is a Habs channel, we want to look at the possibilities around the league of who might end up picking someone like Will Smith. And right now, in most mock drafts, here's just one I pulled for example, in most mock drafts, Will Smith is around 5. He's maybe between 5 and 7 on most, with this one here, of course, having Bedard, Fantilli, Michkov, Leo Carlsson, and then Will Smith going to Montreal at number 5, the 6', 172-pound center. However, Jesse, if we look at the overall sort of draft lottery, these teams top 11 are all the teams that have a chance at moving up to the number 1 overall pick. I've excluded anyone that doesn't have a chance at jumping to number 1. You see Montreal lands at 5, but a team like Arizona or Philadelphia, you gotta think, like, these kind of teams, if Will Smith falls to them, it'll be almost an instant pick, no? Because when you see a center like this, especially with some of the riskier guys, or even like a guy like Michkov, once he's gone, and Leo Carlsson's gone, you got to think that if you want to make a solid pick, Will Smith maybe is the guy. So if he doesn't fall to Montreal, how far do you think he could possibly fall in this draft? Because to me, it's not very far.
Not at all. And to be honest, I see a high likelihood that he does even go top 5. I could see him being picked number 4.
Wow.
We know Bedard, we know Fantilli, we know Carlsson, Michkov, but I think Will Smith we look at the players coming from this program, like, it's almost a sure bet with, everything that he's done so far compared with just the track record. They're doing an amazing job. I think many GMs have noticed that, and they're going to be quick to jump on it.
I think so too. Hey, if he falls to Philly, maybe they'll want to make up for that Cam York pick that many fans weren't so happy about. But it's a very interesting topic. Will Smith is definitely a top 10 talent, probably a top 5 talent. We've made the case for and against Will Smith, his pros and his cons. But let us know in the comments what you guys think about Will Smith. Would you be happy if he went to Montreal at 5? Do you think he might slip a little bit? Or do you think he might be a surprise and go top 4? We'd love to hear from you. But that'll do it for this Making the Case episode. We hope you guys enjoyed. We'll be doing this for a couple other prospects before the draft comes around, and we hope you guys stick around. I'm Josh Gosse for my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.